Okay, it's 5 o'clock, so we're going to call the meeting to order for, I have to remember, this is October. And the first item up is approval of the agenda, and if you just updated your screens, you should have the approved, not the approved, but the updated version. So,
Move approval.
Second. Got a motion second? Are we good, Don? All right, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Everybody opposed to the agenda? Board minutes, and you got those listed as well for September 19th. And I'm assuming you've already had a chance to look at those. What's your pleasure?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second to approve the minutes as listed. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anybody oppose that? No. We're going to move into the moving right along here, moving into the no action portion. And the first item I show is a fundraising update, and that's Dr. Phillips.
I shared with you all some time back that we were working with finance and our principals just to try to get an update on the fundraiser policy and what our procedures are. And the actual policy is called collections and solicitations. It's 5220, and we've prepared it. We've attached the copy there for you. And a couple things I wanted you to be aware of. Number one, so you're aware of it, and number two, if there's something on in terms of a change that we can do that. But the one thing I want to draw your attention to in policy 5220 is item number 4. And if you've got that in front of you, and I'll tell you what it is if you don't.
5220?
5220.
Okay.
Item number 4. And what it says is, this is under collections and solicitations. It says school employees are prohibited from soliciting on behalf of the school system without prior written approval from the superintendent. Superintendent may authorize a school employee to solicit on behalf of the school system funds or items not exceeding $200 in value. Solicitation on behalf of the school system of funds or items exceeding $200 in value must be approved by the board in advance. We don't consider solicitation the same thing as fundraising. And when I think of solicitation, I think of me reaching out to Potash, for an example, when I asked for them to pay for the care cards, those plastic discount cards that we gave to teachers. We're asking for specific money for a project. So there's not anything in our collections and solicitation policy that says that fundraisers need to be approved by the board. But what we want to do that we haven't been doing, we've done for a while and then we got away from it, I want to give you a regular update each month that shows you the different fundraiser activity so that you can at least see what's going on. And then if you go back and look at a pattern and say you feel like we've got a little too much of this or that, we can address it. Just for note, the policy does say that there can only be 2 school-wide fundraiser projects. We don't include picture sales. If a club is doing like a car wash, that's not school-wide. We feel like if students are providing a service that people voluntarily come to participate, that's not captured under this policy. So we just wanted you to be aware of that. If you want me to make any changes, we can, but what we'll start doing is give you a monthly update of the previous month's fundraiser activity, since it doesn't require approval, but at least you'll be aware of it.
So if a school is, a lot of the schools, in fact, most of them sell a school T-shirt or something, that's ongoing all year, and there might be a couple dollars that they make on them, but that wouldn't be part of it,
We don't consider that. We're thinking more of if a student's going out
a big push to raise a
and they're
whole
selling
lot of money.
candles or they're selling hams or whatever they're selling. What we are seeing more of is schools reaching out to families and saying, if you can donate, we'd like to accept donations and not even get into the school-wide fundraising piece.
Right.
So, yeah, we're not talking about those kinds of things like you're talking about there on the small scale. So we don't intend to change anything unless you all felt like there was something to change. But I want you to know we went through it, met with Willie Mack and with Tammy, and we had a couple principals here, and I think we're all on the same page. We want to communicate that to our leadership and make sure they're aware of that as well. What we don't want to have happen are families be overwhelmed with one fundraiser after another. And trying to limit what we've got here, we'll try to manage it just so you're aware of what's going on.
Okay.
You never have enough Christmas wrapping paper.
Yeah, right. Or magazines. Can I ask you a question? Sure. And the only reason I know if there's a teacher that watches this and they see fundraisers brought up or money brought up and I didn't say something, I'm going to hear about it because I hear about this all the time. How does and it's not what you're talking about specifically, how does this Kona ice thing work? Where I see you already laughing and grinning at me there, you know what I was going to ask. Well, they come in on Fridays to a lot of the schools, and I guess they must be making money off of it, I guess, but because of the cost of it, the teachers say that they have a number of students that can't afford it and pay for it, and so they have to sit there while the other kids go get it, and that causes a problem. So then teachers tell me, well, we're paying $10 out of our pocket, and that was an actual fair teacher told me today, she spent $10 last Friday, and they can't afford it. What is there an answer to that issue?
That was.
I mean, I'm not even sure how much money it raises, I'm just throwing it out there.
It was on our leadership agenda as a concern that was brought to you all.
So what are they gonna
And
do?
I'm trying to find out how many schools are participating in that. We also have some guidelines that are in place that say that we're not allowed to sell food products during the school day because it competes with child nutrition, and things have to be done 30 minutes after the last bell for students. The question has been what actually constitutes a food item. So I'm in the process of getting information on that. But yeah, we brought that up. I even mentioned it to our assistant principals yesterday, and I'll come back to you with a little bit
And I
more.
don't think anybody's against Kona Ice. Everybody probably likes, the kids like the little ice. It's a matter of when they can't pay for it, then the teacher has to pay for it out of their pocket, because most teachers don't make 4 kids sit in the classroom and watch the other ones have something. So it's just been causing a lot of issues. I know I've mentioned it to EC before, and I know it's happened there, and so you'll just follow, because like I said, I don't even know how big of an issue it is.
Well, there used to be candy carts and some other things that they did to raise funds. We don't do any of that anymore. And I'm not picking either on Kona Ice. I think it's just a topic that was brought to me, and we'll address that.
I'm not picking on it. I don't even know that much about it, except for that somebody's having to pay for it, and the teachers feel this has to be.
They've been a good partner, and we'll see what we can do in terms of moving
They
forward.
probably still are. So. Was the other policy, was there anything you mentioned?
No. One was on PTAs, PTO,
Gotcha.
collecting funds, and then fundraisers.
Okay. All right, that carries us to the capital fund grant. This idea's been floating around in the state, and I think you're going to explain something to us about
Yeah, I
that.
want to share some details with this, and this is the needs-based public school capital fund. This was some monies that were released fairly recently. It's $30 million is available, and only the maximum amount that you can get for a project or from a LEA is $15 million. And the application deadline is October the 11th, and this is only available to Tier 1 LEAs or school districts, and we fit into that category. At our regional school board association meeting in Pitt County, and at a state superintendent was with us at our recent meeting a week or two ago, what we were told were that school districts need to only apply if they're close to having a project ready to get started. And I'm not exactly sure what that means, if it means shovel and dirt, or if it means blueprints, or if it means a concept or an idea. The other thing that was an issue that we have to look at is there's a caveat that says if a county receives a grant fund award from the needs-based public school capital fund, that county will be ineligible to receive allocations from the public school building capital fund that are appropriated during a 5-year period beginning with the fiscal year the grant funds are awarded. So that means if we get the money, then you don't get capital building fund allotment for 5 years. So then we went back to look and see what that actually involved, and what it involves is our lottery proceeds. So that means if you apply for this particular funding cycle and you get funded, you get that money, but you have to forfeit your lottery money. But a couple things I want to go on record for. And I know that we've had some commissioners' meetings with them, and the question has come up about construction, school construction. We have never had a conversation in here about what we're looking to do long-term in terms of building buildings or doing anything. The only conversations we've had have been on the replacement of modulars. The only project on my radar, and I think probably on yours as well, would be the replacement of the modulars at Washington High School because of the age, and we've talked about those, and they've been in our short-term plan, that type thing. But just to throw a round number out, if we were to request funds, and let's say it cost us $1 million, there's a 1 for $3 match, so we'd have to come up with $250,000. We'd get $750,000 if the grant were awarded to us. So that means we're going to accept $750,000 and turn down $524,000, which is what we got last year in lottery for 5 years. So if you do the math, we're taking $750,000 for give up $2.5 million. That's if the numbers stay there. I have no idea if that's what the replacement cost would be for the modulars. I'm just throwing a round number out there, but I think you would have to have a project in mind that would at least be what you're giving up in the lottery proceeds. But then the other problem is the lottery proceeds right now go to service the debt on P.S. Jones and John Small.
The bond.
So that bond. So somewhere that money would have to come into play. I don't feel like we're ready. We certainly have not had the conversation as a board about any type of a building because we haven't had the capital opportunity to do that. I wanted you to know what you have to give up and just see if we could put this to rest. I didn't want anybody to ask if we were doing something or not doing something. I want you to know why my recommendation would be that we don't move forward with it.
It sounds like right now, based on the numbers you provided, that it would actually hurt us.
It would if we got it that amount.
Because, I mean, we're not paying whatever this is for PS Jones, right? Right now, the lottery money's paying for that.
It does.
And then we'd have to come up with that money to pay for it, right?
Somebody would. yeah.
Somebody would, bonds got to be paid.
Right.
And our numbers, I'm just going to read, we've been in the 400,000s for 3 years. We were at 502, year before last, 472, the year before last, 524 last year. Significant money on the lottery, and I just don't feel like we can offset that with anything. So we have some things we would like to do, but we haven't talked about any major capital types of things to go beyond that. And the fact that it's due on the 11th, and we have to meet with the commissioners and talk about those kinds of things, I just don't want to fast track a project that we've not talked about in depth, and I don't feel comfortable with it.
A lot of people from time to time in social media and the newspaper and different places have mentioned they want to know what we are doing with the lottery money, and I think because it's been several years that they have forgotten the deal that was struck with the county commissioners. So it's not like we're receiving that money in and doing something different with it. It goes straight to pay down the bond, correct?
It's going to debt service.
Right.
So unless you have a $5 million plus project and you have $1 million or more laying in hand to pay your match, it doesn't make any sense. Maybe that's why the program was put together.
It may appeal
They
to
knew it wouldn't
someone.
make any sense.
It's not that
unless you were
enticing,
that very
especially for us.
that very unique person with just the right project. And then, as Don and I have talked about, how many Tier 1 counties are sitting around with plans for a $10 million project in hand saying, I think we're going to do this project, let's go for it, but we don't know where we're going to get the money yet. I mean, it's a non-issue.
And then 5 years in a row, we'd have to come up, or at some point, somebody come up with what we would owe to pay down the bonds.
And I think if we were building a school or we had something like that, maybe we could look at it, but
Can't
not
make
what
it.
we have.
No matter how I
How
think
many
about it, I
how
can't
many more
make
years do we have on the bond?
I don't know. I'd have to pull that number up for you. I don't know.
When did we go? Does Matt, you know when we went into it? What year was those schools? What was it? Wasn't it?
Last bond?
Was it 04, 08,
Oh, four.
04?
4.
04?
Yeah.
13
So,
years.
I don't
We
know.
got a
if it
ways
was
to go.
20. Yeah, it's a long way.
I can get an update on that. I think
a
the
long
debt service
time.
is like 450,000.
Yeah.
each
It
year.
would be a nice thing to get an update on at some point.
Yeah.
Who would you get that
I
from?
can talk with Brian.
Brian?
County would know that. They got it all. That it, Don?
Yep.
Okay, carries us to 4.3, wit and wisdom update. Dr. Phipps, you're still up.
We have some information we're going to share in closed session with that Andre's going to come in, but I think you had a request that you wanted to make on a survey.
Yeah, before we went there, I just wanted to make sure, so if anyone was watching. Yeah, I'm requesting, because of what's calls and the different things that I've received, is that we put out a survey, a blind survey, I call it a blind survey, probably another name for it, to all the teachers, just to get some idea of what is actually being thought about out there, and looking for suggestions as well. And I spoke to Lisa earlier, and what's the system, Lisa? Survey Monkey, and so she said we can put that together, so unless you have an objection to just seeing what's out there in the county, we'll put together something and send it out and get the results back and let you know. So I just wanted teachers to know that, yes, we are working on this. It's, while you might not hear everything in the meeting talked about it, there's a lot of conversations about it, and we're going to make it work.
And we want that feedback. I mean, we
Oh,
can't
absolutely.
address issues if we don't know what
Absolutely.
concerns are, so. we look
And I'm
forward.
sure what I hear is limited, and, but, it seems to be going down the same path, so I think it's just time to since we can put it together, why not use it? So we'll do that. So yes, there's going to be some more discussion about wit and wisdom, but because it's of a personnel issue, some of the questions that I have, I'm going to have to carry the group to closed session to do that. So at this point in time,
And
anybody, yeah, go
well,
ahead.
are we talking about another meeting scheduled outside of our normal 2 meetings that we can discuss wit and wisdom with our group?
We're going to talk but we may need to have a separate meeting. We
Yeah.
talked about the need
We
to
can do that.
possibly do that and have that as a standalone topic.
And if that happens, I'd like to have that survey done before we meet.
Right, and we'll talk about that, where we're getting ready to go right now.
We're hoping we do about a 2.5 to 3 week turnaround to get everything.
Okay.
Right,
Yeah.
we can let that go. Anybody else got a comment? If not, that will take me to looking at a motion to go into closed session.
I move that we go into closed session pursuant to General Statute 143-318.11A1, to prevent disclosure of confidential personnel files under General Statute 115C-321, and in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege between the attorney and the board, which privilege is hereby acknowledged.
Second.
I got a motion and a second to go into closed session. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Guess that was everybody, so we're in closed session. Back in open session, and the first item of business is to approve the personnel agenda that was just discussed.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Guess not. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, got that. Coaching supplements, and Mr. Willie Mack, I think you're up a couple of times here in front of us.
All right. At the last meeting, I provided you, and I can't find mine now,
But we got ours on the screen. So.
a breakdown of the coaching supplements that Joe Koch brought before you all. You all approved the leveling, which was basically to put a standard increase in the different steps within the plan itself. But there was also in the conversations that you had not seen an increase in your coaching supplements in quite some time. So I went through and working with staff and Joe and went through, and we found out that it's about $34,000, $36,000 total when you actually do the leveling with the coaching piece to get you to where we are. Now granted, the contracts that were signed, because you all had said, when he was working within his budget, you will find with the leveling. So those were put into language for the contracts. We ended up paying on those contracts based on the leveling that were due in this payroll. So the coaching supplements that I presented to you at the last meeting are included in the budget amendment that you all have before you tonight.
Okay.
Now, you just said 34,000,
Yeah,
but if you scroll down, it says 20.
Yeah, if I go all the way to the bottom, it says 39, 11, 16 coaching for 20 total.
Excuse me, correct. The other one was 34, I think was his. It's
That was just a- that was just a
20,866.
number we threw out there.
But there are, and I guess I'm looking a little bit possibly down there were a couple of vacancies that are not included, so it will probably go up a little bit.
But it was still less than what we had been anticipating.
Correct.
That's what you told us last month, but we threw
Correct.
it off, Butch, because you
Well,
were out of town.
I think, now, and I didn't have a copy of what Joe originally presented to us, but I think the thing that changed is they did not increase field care. They only did a 10% increase on field care, and I think he had put more in, we had talked about going up considerably on field care. And,
Field care would not be in the supplements, would it? That would be in the actual operational athletic budget, correct?
no,
No, it's usually with
Someone's
this.
paid, yeah.
Yeah, it's usually with this.
if you,
These were the ones that he gave me.
if
And we
you
went
scroll,
through
if
a
you look at
list.
Washington High School, it says field care, 2 fields, it's $400 a field. And I can't remember what the number was, but we were looking at because that's where a lot of coaches spend a lot of their time. If you're taking care of a football field, baseball field, whatever, you've got to mow it year round, and then you've got to line it and prep it and get it ready for every home game you got. And when you talk about $400,
Here's on you.
I mean, if you figure the man mows the field 40 times a year,
Right.
that's $10 a time he mows it. That ain't counting paying for lining it or anything, or doing anything else fancy to it. So I think that may be where the difference is in what was the 34 and the 20 that we're looking at now.
Okay, this does not have, this is basically on the sports athletic supplements alone. These were the ones that he gave me. If there's not a built-in on a field care component for the baseball coach to do the field work, I don't know about it. But these were the numbers and the projections that he gave me based on the table that he was looking at using.
Okay. Are you saying field care is not in here? Field care is in here.
I don't have
I
a
see it.
specific position for field care.
There is a line.
Yeah,
item.
it's in here.
Where is
It's
it?
in here.
Look on the top page for Bath.
That's what he's quoting from 400.
There's a second one for
Yeah,
Washington.
and there's
Field
a
care
second one
three.
down
Field
under
care.
Okay.
softball. Field care softball, down near the bottom of the first page for Washington.
Okay, but,
That's in here.
all right, it is in
Field
here,
care
but
soccer.
it is based on the numbers that he gave.
Okay.
Okay, well,
Field care is in here, it's just only up 10%. Butch is saying it was a more.
yeah, I
increase
think,
than
I
that
think
line
we had,
item.
I think he had agreed to, or come up with a different increase on the field care than the 10%, but,
Well, how about this? Can we just go ahead with this, and if we need, so we can get other coaching supplements approved, and if we need to go back and increase just the field care, we can deal with that separate. Is that
Yes.
okay, Butch? Because I don't want to hold up the pay for the coaches on the other.
when will this take
Okay.
effect? That the next season?
If you all vote on it, but again, if you agree to the supplement, there's a budget amendment that you're gonna need to approve
Right.
to implement it. So if you want to move to the budget amendment,
Oh,
No, this, what I'm saying, what I wanted to know, and I don't know if that's what he's asking, when did they actually start receiving this money?
they received it based on, they had not started the,
Like football coaches, we're in football season. Did
they
get it at
only,
the
they have
beginning
not
or
gotten
the
any
beginning
of it yet.
beginning
If you
of it?
approve it, we'll retro it back, if
Okay,
that's
so they
what you're
got paid
asking.
at the
it'll,
beginning.
it'll be effective the start of this school
Well, that's what
year.
I'm trying-
Correct.
Any season
Well,
from
he
the
was
start of this school,
saying
okay, that's
Correct,
what.
yes. The leveling has already taken place.
Right,
If you do the full on, then we'll retro it back.
okay.
Well, I'll make a motion to go ahead and approve
As is.
the coaching supplements.
Second.
Okay, so that'll take care of this, then we can come back and deal, matter of fact, you can ask Joe and get with him, we can deal with the field care
Yeah.
segment, because I know you're right on that one. Okay, any last discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? It's the start, this isn't where we need to be, but it's a start. But after the 90s, is that really the truth, the 90s, since this has been
It was
addressed?
91, it was when I graduated high school.
92.
And
Yep.
since then, it hasn't been addressed. That's just so hard for me to believe,
Yep.
but,
Not that you're old.
well, 91, he's getting there. Okay, you're still up, budget amendments, which would include all this, I get it, but if you want to explain to us what you need to.
The budget amendment that you have, based on the beginning budget that we adopted and the allotments that have come through so far, with the exception of PRC 20 in the state, that's when we're going to be moving some money from our 01 allotment to pay for our foreign VIF instructors. That's a transfer item. That one has not been approved yet, but I did go ahead and leave it on here as what we had originally budgeted. And when I get a true number on that transfer, I'll tweak that number at the next budget
Okay.
amendment. Okay?
All right, that's fine.
The next one is your local budget amendment. In your local budget amendment, I stayed within the original budgeted allotment in the revenues. But if you go to the second page, it has the various expenditures within the different programs within the local. And if you'll look through it, you'll see that we moved money based on three-year averages for budgeting. If there was if year 17 ran higher than the three-year average, I took the 17 because I figured that number was more current. And I also looked at the expenditures. This budget is very tight. There is not a whole lot of flexibility in here if we have a really cold winter and our energy costs go up. The one piece that you will see when you go down, since we just talked about the athletic supplements, there's a $56,000 increase in the athletic line.
Yeah. What is
Part
that?
of that has to do with salaries that we just did. I went ahead and put those in this budget amendment. The other one was a conversation that we had had about where the athletic programs had not received the funding that they had received in the past. So I went back, running some numbers. I went back through the last 7 years and took an average. When you look at the average for
Yeah.
contracted security,
You don't have to do it tonight, but can you give us a breakdown sometime by school on that? Because that way, when I do have conversations with them, I'll know where they're at regardless of where they
I
say
have
they're
that,
at.
and I'll get
Okay.
her to email it to you.
Yeah, that's fine. No rush on that. I hope you don't get that call.
But when you go through, The 7-year average for contracted athletic services, I guess, which is your umpires and things as such, your supplies and materials, and your contracted security, the 7-year average budgeted was about $49,565. The actual expenditures were a little bit more at $51,878. I looked, and in this budget amendment, it has $66,000 in those lines. And I kind of did a random numbering to get to that point. In one of the discussions that Dr. Phipps, Mr. Doan, and Joe and I had was to look at trying to come up with a standard dollar amount per school, per sport. And so if you looked at taking and giving the high schools $800 per sport, and giving the middle and the elementary schools $500 per sport, that's about $73,400 that would be in those three categories that we just talked about. There again, it's coming out of your local appropriated dollars. My question, and I need a little bit of feedback on how you all have dealt with it in the past, is that when we talk about gate receipts at a ball game, and we look at security costs, would that not be better for those costs to come out of the security or the gate receipts for the security, and that's still at the school level, but it's the cost of that activity, so you look at a net profit rather than a gross profit with the other items coming out of local. If you look back, or if I did the numbers correctly, based on just the athletics with all the schools, they started the year with about $145,795 as beginning balances.
All schools.
That's all the schools that have an athletic program, 930 on up in their line items for the different sports and categories. We haven't been in school but less than 2 months. The revenues now, as they deposit their gate receipts, we do a budget amendment and we increase their budgets. The school's athletic programs have taken in nearly $59,028 so far this year. Right now, their budgets are at $204,823. So when we talk about the monies, how does the sports revenue generated come into play when we look at funding athletics? And I need some help on that, because when we look at pulling it out of that local dollar, if you look at that budget amendment, I cut some big pieces. I cut technology. I cut the utilities on buildings and grounds to come to this budget amendment that you all have before you tonight.
Okay.
To get the 34,000.
To get the 34 and those additional operational costs for security, supplies and materials, and contracted services.
I thought those were paid out of gate receipts, but I honestly don't know. I thought the gate receipts were collected and they paid for the officials and security and things like that. And then quite honestly, there's very little money left when you're done.
There were inconsistencies. If I go back and look, P.S. Jones and Southside High School did not have anything budgeted for supplies and materials for years 14 and 15. If I look at Choctawinity Middle School or Northeast Elementary School, they have nothing for security from fiscal year 13 to fiscal year 17 budget. So they're using their monies in to cover it. So some are using some of their gate monies, others are not. There are some years where a couple of the high schools had some large purchases, and I would assume that that was a major equipment purchase, and that was why their expenditures or their budgets were high in that year. But there is no consistent budgeting between them that I've seen.
Yeah, I kind of knew that was part of what was going on.
And that's kind of like we did with the supplies and materials. I looked at a per pupil cost and I prorated it out. So I'd like to try to work with Joe and the athletic directors or whoever
Yeah,
to
you- I
figure
was gonna
out
say,
what
you
that
better-
structure is.
You better bring the athletic directors in on that conversation, because
But there
they're the
again,
ones got to.
in the meanwhile, that money's coming from local.
Well, I understand that. I
Okay.
mean, it's gotta come from somebody's pocket. I know that. But I'm just saying, they work, the reason I questioned you and called you about it was when you told me you were using 3-year averages.
Right.
And I said, well, that won't help them, because that's when it went back to where the issue started at. So they were cut from, let's say a school had 15,000 and they were cut to 7,500. I mean, that's not a real figure, so you don't get to look it up.
I didn't
But I'm
see
just
that.
saying, but that was within those 3 years. So if you were using 3-year averages, it wouldn't have put them back at their original funds. That's why I said you're going to have to go back further than that to help them at all.
Well, the furthest back I went was 11. I think that was the year that I think Washington High School and Northside maybe got a large one time, but the next year, they got very little.
I can't sit here and answer the question anyway. I don't know if anybody else can. So you're going to have to take it up with Joe and the athletic directors and just get back to us. But we can approve what's in here tonight.
Okay.
Is that suitable?
I work for you all. You tell me if it works for y'all.
But
And
you're
we'll work
going
with-
to keep the dollars up for us.
Yeah.
I'd much rather you have the conversation with the people at each school level who know what they're doing now versus what, if they've always done that, or
Right.
if they've had to change, because attendance can really control what your gate receipts are. If you're having a bad year, your gate receipts can be a third of what they were the year before. But on top of that, I don't want to give them a supplement on one side and take it away on the back end, because that's kind of what the state does to state employees. You tell them you're giving them something, but you take something else away from them. So I want to make sure we're not doing that.
And I thought about that too, from the standpoint that an elementary or middle school does not get the draw.
No, they
They're not.
don't.
The gates
So
don't
they
do
would
anything.
need that local
Right.
nudging a little bit
Yeah, and I don't wanna take
heavier
that away.
than the high school
They're not
football game that would bring in a lot more people in the ball
Right,
games.
right. I
And
want to make
there's
sure.
there's some sports, even at the high school level, that don't make enough gate to pay the officials. I mean, if
That's
you get a
true.
slow baseball and softball game,
That's right.
And
or
I
a
think-
soccer game, and that, you won't make enough gate to pay the officials.
And I think that's why there was a random dollar amount for the athletic program, because it gave them the flexibility to move it within where you said you didn't have the receipts to cover the cost for that sporting event.
But it's still, but the reason I say, yeah, you still need to go back and talk to them about it is because something still doesn't seem right about if I'll just use like Washington High School, if they have 1,000 people show up at a game and get these great receipts, so we don't give them all this money, but then Northside only has 100 people show up, and they don't get enough money to pay the officials, what do we do for them?
Right.
There still needs to be something put down, and we just don't have to have the discussion again.
Okay.
But as far as this goes, you have in it, as far as the budget, I mean, the amendments we just talked about, as far as the coaching increases.
And it also gives, it gives some substantial increases to the contracted athletic services, supplies and materials, and security
Right.
within those programs.
But if
as
you
well.
find anything different down the road, we can always come back and do
Right.
another budget.
It gives us a starting point, but it's.
That's right. Okay, so we can just go
There's some
with this
big dollars
tonight.
there.
Then you have the conversation, report back, if
Okay.
everybody's okay with that.
So you just need an approval for what's in
That's
front
all.
of us. Okay, I'll make the motion.
Gotcha. A second. Okay, I got a motion, a second right here, Lisa. All in favor, say aye. Anybody opposed? Okay, if you find out things different, just come back and let us know.
All right.
Thank you for the work you have done, man. For all these plus and minuses, it looks like a lot of work went on. Calendar.
Tonight's meeting, obviously, in the October the 17th, our October board meeting at 5:30.
That'll do
And
us
then
for
we're going to
this
be adding,
May 12th.
depending on what we do, maybe at the end of the month for another curriculum meeting, but
Okay.
we'll get up with you on that.
Because the meeting you and I discussed about needing for, if we had a commissioner joint meeting, we don't need that now.
No.
Right, okay, so that's gone away. Okay, any board member updates? Quiet group, superintendent
A
updates.
couple things I wanted to share with you. I was at the High School Athletic Association regional meeting last week, and Northside High School was recognized for being ejection-free last year in all their athletic events. So I want to congratulate them and tell them a good job. And we also have completed the application process for the School Board Association's awards that we all mentioned at our last meeting, and we'll have those submitted tomorrow. So we wish Ms. Booth
Best of luck.
And we have an academic program that we hope gets
We
recognized.
want to sit on that stage making a
That's right.
speech. That's exactly
Say what
right.
now?
That, you heard. Don't act like you didn't know what we're talking about. The awards program.
Oh, at the annual.
That's right. We want to see you up there making that awards,
I wanna
thanking us
see
for
it
being
too,
on the
Jerry.
board with you and all that stuff.
I want to be the first one you thank.
Law
Oh,
conference is
I
October
am,
11th
I'm
through
gonna get
13th.
all this.
That's right. Don't forget when you're up there now saying how wonderful your fellow board members are and all that.
You know I don't ever do that. I always remember you guys.
We know.
We know better than that, don't we, Matt?
Always remember you guys.
Anything else, Don? Okay, I need a motion.
make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Good.